It's been another day of victories for Team GB at the Olympics with more gold medals in Tokyo.
Oh, she's got it! She's got it, Ed! She's smashed it! First time ever backflip 360!
A spectacular jump helped Charlotte Worthington come out on top in the women's BMX freestyle.
It's kind of unreal. I'm waiting to wake up, mate. I've been dreaming about this for 4 years, and it still feels like I'm dreaming 4 years ago, so I'm kind of waiting to wake up.
Up into the dismount with the pirouette. Well, Max Whitlock, you could not...
Victory for the defending champion. Max Whitlock retains his title on the pommel horse. And the swimmer Duncan Scott becomes the first British athlete to win 4 medals at a single Games, also on the programme. In Afghanistan, the Taliban threatened to seize the capital of Helmand province, once patrolled by British troops. Takeaways and minicabs are to be offered to young people as an incentive to get their COVID jabs.
It's going to be a Grand Prix winner in Formula One!
And the Frenchman Esteban Ocon takes the title at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Good evening. It's been another triumphant day for Team GB at the Olympics. A spectacular display from Charlotte Worthington saw her take gold in the women's BMX freestyle, while the gymnast Max Whitlock successfully defended his Olympic title, winning gold on the pommel horse. And the swimmer Duncan Scott made history, winning a 4th medal at the Games, a record for any British athlete. Our sports correspondent Natalie Perks has all the very latest from Tokyo. A warning, her report contains flashing images.
Now it is the turn of Charlotte Worthington.
They say go big or go home. Charlotte Worthington opted to defy gravity instead.
She's got it! She's got it, Ed! She's smashed it!
That was the first time any woman had landed the 360 backflip in competition, but the tricks didn't end there.
Oh, the flare to finish!
They knew the score would be big.
97.5!
Oh my God!
It's a huge score!
Worthington had backflipped her way to gold. And moments later, teammate Declan Brooks won bronze in the men's event, just weeks after he was knocked unconscious at the World Championships. In 2017, Worthington was still a chef in a Mexican restaurant. She's now the first ever freestyle Olympic champion.
How is this medal going to change your life, do you think?
I have no idea. I'd like to think that I'll never be working in a kitchen again. And I'm just going to embrace being a full-time athlete, because I've absolutely loved this journey so far, and I just want it to continue.
A hugely successful Games for BMX then. 4 events, 4 first-time Olympians, 4 medals. It's clear new stars are emerging here, but what about the established ones? Here at the gymnastics, Max Whitlock was flying the flag for the old guard. 5 years to wait, just 40 seconds to execute.
Got to extend the body.
The reigning pommel horse champion hadn't looked his usual self in qualifying. He was also up first.
That builds the difficulty.
But when it mattered, Whitlock pulled out his toughest routine, turned on the style and piled the pressure on everyone else.
Up into the dismount with the pirouette. Well, Max Whitlock, you could not have performed that routine any better. It's almost in the hands of the gods. It's a huge score.
7 others came and went. No one could get close to him.
Max Whitlock is still the Olympic champion.
His 6th Olympic medal, his 3rd gold, and the first British gymnast to defend an Olympic title. Back home, wife Leah, daughter Willow and his family could finally celebrate.
Yeah! Well done, Dad. Well done, Dad!
This was probably the most pressured environment that I've ever been in. Team GB have been doing absolutely incredible. The gold medals have been flowing in, and you know, I just wanted to do the same thing and to come out here and get my own. I feel very proud.
And there was also success again in the pool. Silver in the men's 4x100 metre medley relay capped British swimming's most successful Olympics in history with 8 medals. Duncan Scott brought the team home to become the first British athlete in any sport to win 4 medals at a single Games. In Japan, we've met the new stars of Team GB, but we still cherish the old. Both have delivered. Both have gold. Natalie Perks, BBC News, Tokyo.
Well, alongside those British achievements, other records have been tumbling in Tokyo.
6 years later,
Yulimar Rojas of Venezuela broke the world record in the women's triple jump, which had stood since 1995. She'd already secured the gold medal when she claimed the new record with her final jump. American swimmer Caleb Dressel is being celebrated as one of the greatest ever Olympians after winning 5 gold medals in his 6 events. Today, he set a new Olympic record in the men's 50 metres freestyle. And 2 athletes agreed to share the gold medal in the men's high jump after a thrilling 2-hour contest. Qatar's Mutaz Essa Barshim and Italy's Gianmarco Tamberi couldn't be separated after their jumps and chose instead to share gold rather than have a jump-off. And Italy has won its first ever gold medal in the 100 metres with victory for Marcel Jacobs. But there was frustration for Team GB's Jarnell Hughes, the first British man to reach a 100 metres final since Sydney in 2000. He was disqualified after a false start. Here's our sports editor, Dan Rowan.
Empty seats, but one of the most watched events in world sport. The men's 100-metre final remains among the biggest moments of any Olympics. For the last 3 games, one man dominated.
The champion becomes a legend.
But after Usain Bolt's retirement, who would now follow in the fastest of footsteps?
Jarnell Hughes.
Britain had their first finalist since Sydney 2000.
Oh no, Jarnell Hughes, no. Oh.
But Jarnell Hughes' race was over before it began, disqualified for a false start. At the second attempt, however, the most open men's final in years could begin.
Curley gets a very good start and Su Bing-Chan gets left in the blocks this time, and also Jacobs is going very well, but it's Jacobs over on the far side. This could well be Italy's gold medal. It is! Italy take the gold!
Lamont Marcel Jacobs' shock victory, the first by a European in this event since 1992. The most unlikely of successors to Bolt had been crowned. Well, what a moment this is in a sport dominated by one man for so long. Track and field tonight finally has a new star. Jacobs' remarkable victory representing a tearing up of the established order in Olympic sprinting.
It's amazing, fantastic. It's a gold medal. It's forever. A gold medal is forever in my home, and I'm very happy.
A devastated Hughes, meanwhile, telling me what happened.
My left calf cramped up on me. When I went to my set position, it just cramped and I couldn't hold back. I just ended up moving. I know for a fact if I was in that race, I would have gotten the medal. There's no doubt about it.
As recently as 3 years ago, Jacobs was a long jumper, his switch proving to be one of the most inspired in sporting history. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Tokyo.
Sports officials from Belarus have tried to forcibly repatriate one of their Olympic athletes after she criticised her team managers. The sprinter Kristina Semanouskaya told police at the airport that she was afraid to fly home to Belarus, and she appealed to the International Olympic Committee for help. In Afghanistan, Taliban militants are threatening to seize control of the main city in Helmand province, where British troops spent years providing security. Almost all foreign forces are due to leave the country by next month after 2 decades fighting the Taliban. 455 British troops lost their lives. The militants are now on the verge of overrunning the city of Lashkargah in the south, and there's fierce fighting in Kandahar and Herat in the west. Our chief international correspondent Lise Doucette reports from the capital, Kabul.
Lashkargah, Helmand, the peace roundabout, now overrun by Taliban. They say this square is theirs. The centre of a city once patrolled for years by British troops. Afghan special forces, trained by Britain and other NATO armies, are rushing in. This video is from the Afghan Ministry of Defence. The battle intensifies on the ground and on social media. 35-year-old General Sami Sadat is the commanding officer in this southern area. He says the Taliban have suffered hundreds and hundreds of losses, but his forces have lost most rural areas. It's much the same across Afghanistan. Now the Taliban are bent on seizing the cities. All the beds are full at this hospital in Helmand, run by the emergency NGO. More beds being brought in. Hundreds of thousands are on the run. Look at the way these children are moving across the fields in the western province of Herat. The crackle of gunfire all too close. But civilians are also standing their ground. This man is said to be the head of Herat's provincial council. Don't waste your bullets, he says. Take careful aim. And old warlords are back too to take on the Taliban. White-bearded Commander Ismail Khan fought Soviet forces in the 80s, Taliban in the 90s. We're doing our best to suppress the enemy so they can't enter the city, he says. I call on the people to support us, especially those who are armed, to resist the terrorists. But the Taliban are at their strongest since their defeat nearly 2 decades ago after the US-led invasion. It's a moment of reckoning for Afghan forces, a moment of risk for the very future of Afghanistan. Lise Doucette, BBC News, Kabul.
Young people in England are to be offered incentives, including discounts from Uber and Deliveroo, to get their COVID-19 vaccinations. Further inducements could involve restaurants and cafes. Just over 2/3 of 18 to 29-year-olds have had a first jab. With more, here's our political correspondent Nick Eardley. His report contains some flashing images.
Would a free one of these encourage you to get a COVID jab? Ministers hope so, announcing today incentives for people to get vaccinated. Money off cab trips, discount on takeaways. In East London, at what was billed as a vaccine festival, organisers were hoping free meals and music would encourage people along.
Everybody loves a freebie, don't they? By all means, you can come on down and get the vaccination. You don't have to pick up any free food, but we just want to make you feel at home.
And the incentives did encourage a few people along.
When I got a text message and also a leaflet that said that they were doing this, and they even give a token for free food, why not? It was like a really good idea.
I think more people will come across when they see the tent just outside their house, and of course the free food is always a bonus as well.
Governments across the world have been trying out ways to encourage uptake. American President Joe Biden wants states to offer $100 to people who get the jab.
Welcome back, everyone!
But we've also seen warnings that people won't be able to get into nightclubs in England without a vaccine certificate from the end of September. The government is increasingly adopting a carrot and stick approach to getting young people vaccinated. Ministers have made clear that getting back to something like normal life will be easier if you've had the vaccine, from going on holiday to going clubbing. But these schemes are supposed to provide encouragement too, and the government's hoping that many other incentives can be announced in the coming weeks. Here's one of the reasons why. These lines show uptake among older people in England, but these lines show it among people under 30, and it's much lower. Ministers want it to be considerably higher by the end of summer. One government advisor says there needs to be more focus on the health benefits of vaccines.
So giving people incentives is not the answer. I mean, it can increase the rates, but I think the thing that we're lacking at the moment is a very, very clear public information campaign so that young people see the benefits and can compare those with the risks.
The success of the vaccine rollout has been key to reopening society. Ministers want to keep it going and are willing to try different ways to make that happen. Nick Eardley, BBC News.
Well, the latest government figures show there were 24,470 new coronavirus cases in the latest 24-hour period, a slight fall on the previous day. That means, on average, there were 26,793 new infections a day in the last 7 days. 65 deaths were recorded in the latest 24 hours. That's an average of 75 deaths a day in the past week. And the most recent figures show just under 6,000 people are in hospital with COVID-19. From today, businesses are having to pay more of their workers' wages as the government continues to wind down its furlough scheme. But there are fears the increased costs could see some firms struggling to survive. The furlough programme, in place since April last year, will finish at the end of next month. Here's our business correspondent, Katie Austin.
It's being credited with preventing unemployment rising sharply. Now we're in the final 2 months of the job retention scheme. The economy has been reopening, but nearly 2 million people were still furloughed at the end of June. Receptionist Ruby, who's 65,
Hi Ruby. Hiya.
has been on full or part-time furlough since March last year. She's grateful for it, but the future is unclear.
I think there's every possibility that come on October the 1st, when the furlough scheme ends completely, then yes, I'll possibly have to start looking for another job.
The highest rates of people on furlough used to be among the under 25s.
But in the most recent data, we've seen that it's over 60s who are now more likely to be furloughed. We know that when older people lose their jobs, they are more likely to leave the labour force entirely. Any workers who are kind of left on furlough are more likely to become unemployed.
In its final stage, the scheme is changing. Previously, the government paid 80% of wages for hours not worked. In July, that contribution fell to 70%, with the employer picking up 10%. From today, the government will pay 60% and the employer 20% until furlough stops at the end of September. The British Chambers of Commerce thinks a fifth of firms still using it are now considering redundancies. The extra cost is a strain for businesses which are still struggling, like travel agents.
There are still lots of destinations we can't sell. It comes to a point where the money is going to run out. And obviously with the furlough scheme, we've been able to keep the staff on, or we kept 50% of the staff on, and it's just going to drain the money even faster.
Furlough winding down will mean tough decisions for some. In a statement, the government told us it's helping people of all ages find the skills to get back into work. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes in southern Turkey as huge wildfires continue to burn. At least 6 people have died and hundreds have been injured. Parts of the tourist city of Bodrum have had to be evacuated with more. Here's Angus Crawford.
Clouds of smoke and flame behind them, the sea their only escape. Locals and holidaymakers queued for boats to take them away from parts of the holiday resort of Bodrum in the southwest of Turkey. Wildfires, which started 5 days ago, burned their way through hillsides towards the city. In less than a week, more than 100 forest fires have broken out across the country. Local teams, but also those from Iran, Russia and Ukraine, deployed to tackle them, fighting on the ground and from the air. This man said his home was almost overwhelmed.
The fire started 400 meters from here and it took only 5 minutes to reach us. Everybody here was crying and screaming for help. We haven't slept the past 3 days.
The country's been hit by record high temperatures and numbers of wildfires this summer. President Erdogan, here visiting one affected area, criticised for not doing enough. And the hot weather is set to continue. Tomorrow in the south hitting 40 degrees Celsius. With bone-dry forests and no prospect of rain, this summer of fire may not yet be over. Angus Crawford, BBC News.
It was a thrilling Formula One Hungarian Grand Prix with Lewis Hamilton battling his way up the field from last place. But France's Esteban Ocon clinched victory with a surprise win. Our sports correspondent Joe Wilson has more.
Formula One simmered in the Hungarian rain. What could possibly happen next? Hold on. Lewis Hamilton's black Mercedes proceeded, but behind him, chaos. Revisit the start with Valtteri Bottas in the other Mercedes, his mistake. The knock-on effect of that collision, both Red Bull cars were hit. Remember, indignation already raged between those teams. Max Verstappen's Red Bull was frantically repaired, and the track dried, and the race restarted, and the next drama. Lewis Hamilton changed his tyres after everyone else, found himself at the back.
Come on, last.
Max Verstappen in his patched-up car got to 10th, but there was Lewis Hamilton overtaking into 4th. Keep going, urged the team, and Hamilton squeezed past the red Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. The race was won surreally, memorably by Esteban Ocon, but Hamilton's third puts him back in the lead in the championship, and that was the Grand Prix. Joe Wilson, BBC News.
That's it. There's more throughout the evening on the BBC News channel, and I'll be back with the late news at 10. Now on BBC One. Time for the news where you are. Bye for now.